A few months ago, I started to notice something. I was making the text on my phone bigger. I found myself holding things further away, adjusting the brightness on my phone, even squinting. And every time this happened, I had the same thought. I really need to schedule an eye exam. The problem wasn't that I didn't know what I needed to do. The problem was that I kept putting it off. And if you're anything like me, probably done the same thing. Today I want to talk about my eyes and what my eyes were trying to tell me after 50, why I finally decided to stop ignoring it, and how I found an easier way to find a doctor. This video is sponsored by ZocDoc. It was actually the small things, the everyday things, the things that are easy to dismiss, making the text bigger, holding things further away, rereading something because it didn't seem to make sense the first time. And every time it happened, I would tell myself the same thing. I need to schedule an eye exam. But life was busy. There was always something else that felt more urgent. A client, a project, a deadline, a responsibility. And before I knew it, weeks turned into months. And then I had a realization. What struck me wasn't that I needed an eye exam. What struck me was how easily I had put myself at the bottom of my own list. Because if my daughter needed something, I would make time. If a client needed something, I would make time. If a deadline needed to be met, I would make time. But somehow, when it came to me, I kept saying later. And I think a lot of us do this. We take care of everyone else and then convince ourselves we'll get around to taking care of ourselves when things slow down. But life rarely slows down. So eventually I made a decision. I was done putting it off. I was going to schedule the appointment. And honestly, making the decision wasn't the hard part. I already made up in my mind that I needed to schedule an eye exam. The hard part is trying to figure out where to start, especially because I wanted to make sure that the doctor I selected took my insurance. If you have ever tried to find an in-network doctor searching an insurance directory, you already know how confusing that can feel, even before you get to the appointment. So like most people, I started where I thought I should start. I started with the Find My Doctor directory on my insurance website, because logically, that seemed to be the right place for me to look for a doctor that was in network that would take my insurance. Logically, that made sense to me. And in network basically means that that doctor on that list accepts your insurance, right? So I thought that searching the insurance directory would make everything clear. But that's where I was wrong. The list was long and the information did not seem easy to understand or clear. There were so many names and so many offices and so much information that I didn't know what was accurate, what was outdated, and what applied concerning my insurance. I would see a doctor listed, but what I didn't know is whether that doctor was actually accepting patients. I didn't know what their real availability looked like, and I didn't know if that office would be a good fit for my needs. And I didn't feel like I had enough context to compare one in-network eye doctor to another in a way that felt clear to me. For anyone searching online for a doctor that actually takes your insurance, that's the frustrating part. You're not just trying to find a name on the list. You're trying to find a doctor in network that takes your insurance, that actually has availability, and that's a good fit for you. The insurance directory may have been a good place for me to start, but it didn't give me a clear next step. And even after spending all of that time searching, nothing felt confirmed. Look, I would still have to pick up the phone, verify that they took my insurance, ask if they were taking new patients, find out when they could fit me in, and hope that the information matched what I saw online. And then sometimes you call and you're on hold. Sometimes you leave a message. Sometimes you finally get someone on the line to find out that the availability doesn't match, or that the doctor isn't taking new patients, or that the information isn't as clear as it appeared. And that's why insurance directories can feel so difficult to use. You still have to call the office, verify whether they're taking your insurance. You have to verify availability for new patients and determine if they're a good fit. And this is where I felt myself putting it off again, because the process started feeling heavier than it needed to feel. I remember thinking, I'm just trying to find a doctor that takes my insurance and schedule an eye exam so that I can be seen. Why does this feel so complicated? I just don't understand. And it was in that moment that I decided that I needed to find an easier option for myself, because the insurance directory just wasn't giving me the clarity that I needed. There had to be an easier way to locate an in-network doctor that took my insurance, that had availability for me to be seen. And that's when I decided to try ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website and app that helps people find high-quality doctors and specialists. For me, that difference was clarity. Instead of scrolling through an insurance directory and wondering what was current, I could see appointment availability. I could read verified reviews from past patients and review doctor profiles before booking an appointment. For anyone asking how to find a doctor that takes your insurance, that's what made ZocDoc useful for me. I was able to find a doctor that took my insurance, look at their actual availability for new patients, and get to that final step, or that next step, which was actually booking an appointment for an eye exam. For those using insurance, ZocDoc allows you to filter providers based on your insurance plan. I was able to compare my options, choose a provider based on my own preferences, and move forward with booking an appointment. For me, it took something that was feeling so overwhelming, and it made it so much more simpler. The biggest lesson from this experience wasn't about my eyesight. It was about attention. Because sometimes our bodies whisper before they start shouting. And sometimes we know exactly what we need to do. We just keep postponing it. Maybe it's an eye exam. Maybe it's a dentist appointment. Maybe it's your annual physical. Maybe it's something completely different. But I think most of us have something we've been telling ourselves we'll get around to eventually. One thing living alone after 50 has taught me is that nobody is coming to manage my health. Nobody is coming to make the appointment. Nobody is coming to prioritize my wellness. That's my responsibility. And honestly, it's not a burden. It's an act of self-respect, because every time I choose to take care of myself, I'm investing in the life I want to continue to build. So if you've been putting something off, love, maybe this is your reminder. Not to panic, not to worry, just to pay attention, because sometimes the small things are trying to tell us something. Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you've been putting off that deserves your attention? I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video, love.